Tomorrow, the Board of Regents will vote if students should pay Scarlet and Gray 20 cents per credit hour. Now we have Vanessa Booth, the editor-in-chief here, to talk about why this is important. Thank you, Vanessa, for being here today.
Thank you.
And I just want to ask, why was the reason that you decided charging students was the best course of action?
Well, after further discussion with UNLV administration, CSUN student government and graduate student government, and even the journalism school, we realized that the best funding mechanism to sustain the paper indefinitely was a student fee. Just because, even though there is quite a bit of government dollars available at the university, we still have to compete against other orgs each year for that money. And we just realized a student fee of 20 cents per credit hour would be a small price to pay to sustain the student newspaper on campus forever, really.
And this 20 cents equals about $140,000 a year for students. And that's right now 3 times the amount that the RJ is currently giving you. So how are you going to allocate this extra money?
So this extra money is going to look at expanding our staffing capabilities, our operations, simple things like we need are updating printers, hosting our websites, having more marketing options like analytics. That's all really expensive. There's a lot of positions that we've put on hold, like assistant editorial positions that we want to bring back. We've just realized with the upkeep and the needs of the student newspaper coming back in person to campus that we need to basically have a nice room to digitize and keep all of our archives from 1955. There's just a lot of things like broken pipes here and there that we just need a bigger budget allocated for to essentially sustain the paper and continue business as usual.
And I've seen proponents say that instead of charging every student for the paper, just charge the students who just want to pick up a paper and read. Mm-hmm. What do you kind of respond to that?
I think, a thriving campus has an informed campus, and so I think at one way or another during someone's college career, they're going to come in contact with us, whether there's a story about them in the paper, they went to a game and see the game that they went to in the paper and they pick it up. In some fashion, we deliver a service to students by giving them a voice and representing their opinions every week in the student newsletters and the way that we cover. One thing I would say to that also is that in order to have a thriving college campus, you also have to have student journalists. We're a breeding ground for future journalists, and your campus is only as informed and strong as your student newspaper is.
And what about people who say that printing is just expensive? I read that the RJ is now cutting you guys for printing, so how are you guys going to deal with that?
So we've already kind of made adjustments with our ad sales team to kind of cover that, and Student Affairs has been super helpful in covering the costs of that as well with a grant essentially. But for a long-term solution, printing actually costs approximately $12,000 right now, just because we've scaled back to a 12-page count when printing. We print less than 1,000 copies, which is not like our desired need for printing, because we've noticed that pickup rates have gone higher and there's a bigger demand for print on campus. But overall, that's like the smallest, I would say, problem with our budget right now, just because even if we remove the printing costs, we still are in dire need of money to be able to operate as usual. And
what about other organizations on campus that also need money, mm-hmm. right? Because I know we're not charging students for every credit hour. So what do you kind of say to other organizations? Because
Yeah, no, definitely. I know it's a tricky situation, and I've been lobbying with Regents and other campus administration. They've always said the same thing to me too, but I think it's always a last resort to go and charge students. I don't like fees. Nobody likes fees. Tuition's increasing every day. But I think one thing to keep in mind, we're the tiniest fee on the Board of Regents agenda. We're going to amount to maybe $3 per student, depending on how many classes they take, and that's at most. When it comes to competing with other campus orgs, I think it's really important. This has been 12 months in the making. We've lobbied with CSUN, gotten a resolution from CSUN student government, an endorsement from graduate student government, and basically full-fledged support from all of campus administration, which is really rare. For many student-imposed fees. It's very rare that students come forward and say this is the solution that needs to be put in place. And so what I would say to those other organizations is to lobby to see what other funding mechanisms are available and talk to students. I think the most impactful thing for us was talking to CSUN.
And thank you so much, Vanessa. And what can students do if they do want to support you guys?
So I would recommend them to attend the Friday Board of Regents meeting at 11 o'clock a.m. Tune in to give public comment. Basically, you get up there, you state your name for the record, and just urge the Regents to vote yes on this item, because essentially it would sustain us for the future and create future journalists at UNLV.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Vanessa. And just ahead, one of UNLV's own setting his sights on the NFL draft. Find out who after the break.